Hi everybody, so I'm going to make a short video, hopefully short, that's about integration and just again the relationship it has to area under the curve. So we're going to start out pretty easy. This first one is I'm looking at the function 2x plus 4 and I'm going to integrate it over the closed interval 1 to 5, and I just wanted to remind you, what does that mean? It means that I'm finding the area under the graph of 2x plus 4 over the interval 1 to 5. So when I do that, and let's make sure my little drawing tool is on, what I'm looking at is, hey, say here's my graph. If I wanted to graph it, I could plug in 1. So 2 times 1 is 2, 2 and 4 is 6. So I would go 1 and then, so let's say this is 1, 6. And then I would go over to 5. And if I put in 5, 5 times 2 is 10 plus 4 is 15. So this was 6. It's a real sloppy, but sorry about that, but it still works. Okay, so it says, look, I have this shape and all of this stuff underneath it. That's what I'm going to find when I do this integration. So simple power rule. I have 2x, but now I'm going to square it and divide it by 2. The 4, I'm just going to give it an x. And now that I've integrated, I can plug in the bounds. To make it look pretty, well, I guess I'm not going to make it look pretty. I'm going to cancel those 2's. And so I'm going to have x squared plus 4x, and then from my 5 and my 1. So let's plug in the 5. That says I have 5 squared plus 4 times 5. And then I'm going to subtract. And yes, it's always subtract when I'm going from the bounds. So I'm going to put that 1 in. So here, this is 25 plus 20. And this is 1 plus 4. Okay. So 20 and 25 is 45. 1 plus 4 is 5. So this tells me my area under the curve gives me 40, right? So simple. Integrate, plug in the number, subtract every time. What I want you to show, and you shouldn't think that's mind-blowing, we did that in class already, is what happens if it doesn't look like that. Let me give you a different shape. And at first it's going to seem like I'm giving you the same shape because once again I'm giving you a line. I gave you 3x minus 8. But let's look at that from 0 to 2. So once again, kind of like a nice first step is to be like, well, let's graph this. And you'll notice I kind of put the x-axis pretty high because if I throw in 0, 3 times 0 is 0. 0 minus 8 is negative 8. So let me call that negative 8. And then over at 1, 2, and I did exaggerate the graph, that's okay. If I put in 2, 2 times 3 is 6. 6 minus 8 is 2. So if that's 8, we'll call 2 about here. Here's my graph. Okay. So notice, again, this time I have another trapezoid looking kind of thing, especially if I drew better, so just go with it. Go with that's a trapezoid. And I need to find the area. Okay. So again, 0 to 2, my bounds, little to big. My function, 3x minus 8, and dx, just so our notation looks nice. Again, integration, which is the power rule. So I have 3x squared over 2 minus 8x. Okay. And now, again, bounds 2 and 0. So let's put in that 2, so I have 3/2 of 2 squared minus 8 times 2. And just so I did it nice and you can see it, I'm going to put in the 0, even though nothing's going to happen. 0 is 0. All right, so this 2 squared is 4. I have 4 times 3/2 minus 8 times 2 is 16, and then this is 0. Right. So this 2 cancels that 2. I have 2. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 minus 16 minus 0. This gives me negative 10, right? So here's what's different. I got a negative answer, and the whole reason for the negative answer is the number is underneath the x-axis. So I wanted you to see above the x-axis I get a positive number, below the x-axis I get a negative number. This is important to us because we're business calculus, and I want you to be thinking so many times when a business starts, how do they start? They start down here at the negatives. They start with, we've spent some money. We haven't made any money, we spent some money. So many times we've talked about profit being revenue minus cost, and in the beginning you have a cost but you don't have a revenue, and it takes a long time for that revenue to outweigh the cost and for you to finally get up in here in the black, right? So we have to go from red to black. So it takes a while, and there's some time. So if we wanted to look at, pretend this was total profit, our total profit would be, we spent a lot of money. Okay, so it would be a negative. And I think that's important for our class in particular. So I wanted to show you, well, what happens kind of when it crisscrosses. So again, I'm giving you a situation where it's different than what we've done before. So let's start with plug in 0. So 2.5 times 0 is 0, and then I put in 2, or then I just subtract 2. So 0 minus 2 is negative 2. So I'm starting this function down here at negative 2. Then I put in 4. If I do 4 times 2.5, that's going to give me 10. 10 minus 2 is 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. Okay, so here I am. So some point in there, it crossed over, and we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to draw it. And see, now I'm finding this area. And what you should see that's interesting is part of the graph was underneath the x-axis and part of the graph is over the x-axis. But I'm still going to say, well, what happens all together when we add that up? All right. So normal stuff. It doesn't matter that it's above and below when I'm doing this particular graph. What it matters is that I kind of see it, I know what's going to happen, and I do the integration. All right, so I'm going to start with 2.5. Again, is x squared over 2 minus 2x. So everything keeps being the same. I'm picking lines to make it easy. Also, to make it easy, I'm going to say when I divide, that's 1.25x minus 2x. And I'm going to put in 0 and 4. Okay. Oh, and that's a squared. Sorry about that. So I did 2.5 over 2, gave me 1.25. I did x squared left alone, 2x left alone. So now I need to put in my numbers. Oops. I kind of got ahead of myself there, and I ran ahead and squared it. So let's not do that and confuse you. Okay. I'm putting in 4 first, then I'll square it, and then I'll do 2 times 4. And then the same thing, and let's put some brackets around there, put in 0, 1.25 times 0 squared, and then minus 2 times 0. Okay. This part is 0. I don't really need it. What I do need is over here. So I have 1.25, 4 squared is 16, minus 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, so let's look at what that is. Here's the point where I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't bring my calculator. That's okay, we'll figure it out. 1.25 times 16 should be 20. You guys can check me because I seriously don't have a calculator right now. So assuming that's 20 and I'm correct, and then minus 8, that says altogether I have 12. Now this I really like for us because remember that situation we were just talking about where profit starts out negative? And this, if this was our company, and this is how we started off, where we at first weren't making any money, but it didn't take us very long to all of a sudden we were. That's good news. That's a pretty good company working out for you. That you had this little bit of time that you were negative and then you switched positive. This would tell me what was my overall profit, and it would combine that loss with the gain, and it would tell me in total what I made. So it would take the negative with the positive and give me a nice result overall, which I think is really great so that we can compare the two. All right, so that was just another quick look at integration and what it means under area under the curve. I'll make another one pretty soon. Bye, guys.